Hey guys, welcome back to Tiny Disneyland. In today's episode, we are going to look at the construction of the Mark Twain Riverboat and the Riverboat Landing, and an additional restaurant I added to Frontierland, which is actually the Riverbell Terrace, which is actually between New Orleans and Frontierland. So those are the buildings I got to work on for this build session. I didn't do a lot of building. I was just kind of like taking a break, doing some other projects, doing some, Christmas shopping, because that's happening. So let's get on to the actual build of the Mark Twain and the Riverbell Terrace. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing to work on for the Riverboat Landing, as I'm going to call it, basically is the station for the Mark Twain Riverboat and the sailing ship Columbia. So this station was actually quite simple to do. It also is a scaled down version of what it should be, the size of it. So it's just kind of like a colonial style building. I'm not really sure what else to describe it as, but it's just simple brick walls with iron wrought ironwork with a metal roof that's green and kind of with like a decorational top to it. And it's just a simple station, honestly. Nothing too crazy. So I do love the new pieces that we have now for the iron pieces. We have these new iron, I'm going to call them like they look like sunrises. They look like sun pieces, like iron gates. I'm not sure what else you would call them. Then we got the new iron poles. Those are wonderful too. And then I just mimicked the brickwork with some shapes in the color of like the brick red. So that's what I kind of opted in to do that, and then quickly put some flowers in and do all the nice cool things. And then American flag was an appropriate thing to put on top of the middle of the roof. And then add some cargo around the dock and the loading area, because there are a whole bunch of boxes. I love that we can recolor them now, makes it even more realistic in storytelling. And then off to building said riverboat. Now, I've built a riverboat, I want to say 4 years ago for the American Adventure Park, and that was on how big was the boat? I want to say a 3 grid. Yeah, I think it was a 3x6 wide boat. And for this boat, I opted to do only a 2x, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I'm counting 6 square spaces. So this is a 2x6, and the other difficult part was that this was all vanilla. Because the boat that I built 4 years ago was all vanilla assets, but with construction anarchy. So I was quite excited to get into building the Mark Twain in vanilla. I wanted to see if I can pull it off, and I'm quite surprised I was able to. And with some of the new pieces that we got in the 1.10 update, that's been very, very helpful in achieving said goals. Now, also in my mindset, also in the whole Disneyland project, is that it has to represent the item. It doesn't have to be exact, and not having that requirement makes it easier to build and more fun to complete. Because I'm not worried about accuracy. I'm more about like, okay, I'm gonna make this like a toy said thing. So I was very happy with that choice. So this boat, I don't know what else to talk about with the Mark Twain. Mark Twain's Mark Twain. It's been around the park for 70 years this year actually, because the park has its 70th anniversary next year, and the boat's as old as the park. Dang. That's an old boat now. Mark Twain Riverboat, yeah. The only steam-powered ship on the East Coast. Oh, not the East Coast, sorry. We're on the West Coast. I should know where I live. But I have fond memories of the Mark Twain. I've been on it numerous times as a child. I even did I think I was 12 or 11, and I did a Mark Twain birthday kind of. We were able to go up to the wheelhouse where you actually drive the Mark Twain, and I was able to go up there with my brothers, and then we actually drove the boat, but it's not really driving the boat because the Mark Twain's on a track. So, and the real driver of the Mark Twain, technically speaking, is the engine house at the bottom near the boiler, because that's where the guy has the crank. He waits for the command from the wheelhouse and then says, okay, all steam forward, and then the boat moves forward. But yeah, the Mark Twain Riverboat's quite a fun attraction to have, especially on like those hot days you just want to come relax. It's a nice 12 to 15 minute ride, I think. I haven't been on it in a while. So the last time I was in the park was like 2015, so it's been a hot minute. But Mark Twain has always been one of my favorite attractions. It's sad that with Walt Disney World doing its, I don't know, getting rid of the river in Walt Disney World is a crazy thing to think about, and replacing with stupid cars, I just can't. That's just so silly. You're going to get rid of a riverboat that creates atmosphere and a place to relax. Not everything in a theme park needs to be the next great thing, the next great exciting adventure. It doesn't need to do that. Your park is supposed to kind of cater to a lot of people. But rant over. It's going to be sad when we're going to see the river disappear in Walt Disney World. Here at Disneyland, it got shortened for Star Wars Land, but that wasn't as bad because the Mark Twain's still here, so I'm glad that it's still sticking around. I haven't even talked much about the boat, but you can kind of see I use a lot of shapes in my building. Cylinders, things like that, trying to mimic the shapes and the things I am trying to replicate. So like the smokestacks are made of cylinders. The way the smokestacks are supposed to, flare out as like a crown, I tried to figure that out, so I just kind of opted into half hemispheres just to kind of mimic it. And then with the new ring pieces we have and the Taurus pieces, it's been great. And then that new star piece we have, that's awesome. And then I knew from when we got the new update 1.10, I saw the wheels from the Western pack for the, what was it called, the mine shaft? And I knew immediately they would become paddle wheel wheels. Like, it was perfect. And I have them spinning, actually, if you could look at them, they're spinning in the direction the boat would travel. Because when the Mark Twain docks, they throw the line gets hooked onto its dock, and then the boat has to then continue pedaling forward to keep the rope taut. So the boat never stops, technically speaking. So I have the wheels in that rotation, that direction, so that I'm suggesting that the boat is in its resting phase at the dock. I just reminded myself I should build a rope connected to the boat. I don't know if I can do that with the limited pieces of vanilla. I've done it before though. I could figure it out. Yeah. It's a small detail that doesn't necessarily need to exist, but it could exist. It could, totally. So I won't necessarily. But yeah, you can just see I'm just adding some finishing details and greeblies, as you want to call it. And at this point, when I get to a point of this project, like toward the end of it, I'm like, this looks like the Mark Twain. Feels like the Mark Twain. If a normie, as I would put it, can identify it as the Mark Twain, I have won. That's a good sign. So I do plan on building the ship Columbia, the sailing ship Columbia. I'm planning to do that. I'm probably going to have the Columbia either in the Fowler's Harbor or en route. I haven't decided yet, because I have to get back into the groove of working on Tiny Disneyland again, because it's been kind of like an off period at this point, but I kind of been busy with the campaign editor that just came out, because it would already be out by it's already out, so I've been busy with that. So I do want to finish this project. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to pull another American Adventure on you guys. I'm going to finish it, because this project's a little bit easier versus American Adventure. So we're going to transition on to the next riverboat thing. This is called Riverbell Terrace. This is the restaurant that shares lands. Actually, it shares, I think... No, where it sits, it actually shares only 2 lands, but technically speaking, it would share Frontierland. But this restaurant was I don't know if the original building is original from Disneyland's opening, but there was back in 1955, there was a building that was decorated half and half. One side was Pueblos and like Mexican style, and the other side was decorated for New Orleans, and it sat on the riverbank. And so that was like the prime example of like transitions. And so this building, Riverbell, was kind of that solution later on after, as the park grows and expands. So this Riverbell kind of sits between Adventureland, New Orleans, and Frontierland. So it has a mix of those southern charms kind of thing. So you can see I'm using like pillars to accent a plantation house, technically speaking. So Riverbell, what do they sell? They sell chicken, I think? Well, no, they used to. They sell something else now. I think it's barbecue. But it's just a restaurant that needed to be put in and kind of just cap off Frontierland, because I did some editing around this place because it's not directly the right placement where this sits, because again, Riverbell actually sits on a diagonal if you look at the park on Google Maps. But in this case, I'm doing my tiny design. I'm going trying to mimic it as best as possible. I wasn't going to make it diagonal. There's no way. So I just opted in just to make it at 90 degrees and kind of build it a little bit farther away from Golden Horseshoe and kind of suggest the transition is starting to happen, because the river is, I would suggest, one big transition as well, because the river starts in Frontierland, takes that giant turn around the front near the New Orleans and turns into New Orleans, and then it kind of goes toward the wilderness, toward Critter Country, now called Bio Country. Ugh, it should be called Critter Country. And then that kind of goes into the wilderness part of Frontierland. So technically speaking, it hits about 3 lands before it hits back to its main port. So that's the rivers. I would say water is a pretty good transition tool if you're trying to figure out transition stuff. But that's just my tip. As I go on another tangent, I'm not even talking about the Riverbell. I'm just trying to mimic the shapes that I see on the building, because I had a lot of reference pictures. So a lot of peaked roofs and a lot of balconies, because it's a southern building. Whites and pinks is usually the color scheme they went for some reason. For this Riverbell it did. So I kind of did that, copied that. I mimic only one building up this. Yeah, I only did one side because actually there's like a good set of buildings that go down the walkway that goes toward what is it called? Shoot. Golden Horseshoe. And so I had to chop out that, edit that out, because I didn't have room. As I continue to work on this project, there are things I'm going to start cutting out and some things I'm going to add in, like Big Thunder Trail was removed when I talked about that in my Big Thunder video. I have now thoughts about trying to bring it back in because I like the idea of having that trail. So I don't know if I'm going to add the trail back. I'm going to have to experiment. But we're coming to a close, and we're going to show you what the park looks like at the moment and talk about all the things I want to add and do to the next phases. So I'll catch you over on the tour. Okay, here we are in the Riverboat landing. Basically, yeah, we're here at the Riverboat landing. So I built the two things, Mark Twain Riverboat and the Riverbell Terrace. But some things, let me double check. Let's just take a quick recap of the park because it's been quite a while since the last video. So we have the front, we have Main Street, we have the castle, I have the Tomorrowland to Estate, we got Space Mountain. Okay. Then we went over to Frontierland. I did Big Thunder was the last video. Here's Big Thunder. I did talk about at the end I wanted to maybe build Big Thunder Trail. If I did it in like one square unit, I could drag the river, kind of build it this direction. I have to test it out first. And yeah, I'll test it. So the other things I didn't talk about in the time lapse was I added a underwater track. This is actually the submarine rides track, and I'm not going to build the submarine. I'm just going to use the track as a prop, and I think it's a cool detail to have, so I put that in. And then I also worked on some of the edging of the river because it's supposed to be, well, iron fences and brickwork. Not really sure what that's supposed to be, but I did that. And then I started the planning phases for the landing for the rafts that go across to the island for Tom Sawyer's Island. Started work on that. And then I tried to start to incorporate the 2 blueprints that I already put in. That would be Haunted Mansion and Splash Mountain. Now with Splash Mountain, there's some changes here. In real life, there's supposed to be a bridge here that goes over, but I feel like it goes too high for what I'm trying to achieve. So I'm going to cheat, make the walkway go around it, maybe adjust this up a little bit with some maybe rocks and trees and bushes, and then so it's going to go over here into Critter Country, and I have to then, you know, plan to build the rest of Critter Country when I get there. But with these kind of already cemented in place, because they're not going anywhere anytime soon. No, these are pretty, they're pretty in here. I'm not going to move them anytime soon. I am going to maybe work on the train station next and the park. And here's Riverbell. So in the time lapse, I didn't show you the other details that I did because I ran out of footage or I forgot to film. I don't know which, but I did something. So I put down some benches and tables, some trees to kind of help accent the building. Then I finished off, I built the Stage Door Cafe, which is a restaurant next to Golden Horseshoe. But the funny thing is they share the same kitchen. So you can order burgers and fries from here, or you can go inside and order burgers and fries. Same kitchen. Kind of the funny thing. Then I kind of worked on fixing up the backstage area, added this little roof. Backstage area, there's a little entrance for the employees, and then there's a dumpster just because it's a backstage area. But this, technically speaking, this area between Adventureland and Frontierland are all basically done. So I can come back into these buildings and maybe like dress them up a little bit if I want to add more details. But I'm finally done with this big chunk of, well, park, or this chunk of like theming. Yeah, on the backside of Riverbell, I built the transition buildings that go with it. This is so funny. So I did some transitions from, you have to go from adventure to a New Orleans-esque type of thing. So these 2 structures are actually part of the same structure, and they just had this weird color scheme going on. Like this guy's really weird. But it was kind of the point was to go from a tropical color set to a more of a New Orleans Americana aspect. So there's your transition. And I think it works out really well because I have this transition right here. So it kind of just merges over. And as a guest, you're walking through, you're kind of beelining to Haunted Mansion or Splash Mountain. You're not going to pay attention. Kind of your brain kind of fills in that gap. And so this is the fill in. So that kind of helps me pinpoint where I sit. And this is where some of the fudging and the imagination that I have to now do from this point because of how much space I'm limited with. So the next phase is this white square is the entrance to Pirates of the Caribbean. And then the Pirates of the Caribbean show buildings back here. Yeah, I'm already kind of regretting. I don't know about regretting. I'm just kind of like not sure if this is where it should live. I could honestly move this down an area and kind of maybe build a building here because I want to have the building on the edge of the map so I can build a cutout so you can get to see some of the scenery. That's kind of what I want to aim for, but we will see. And also, all of New Orleans will be elevated by one elevation because I want that to match the railroad tracks. So I have to find a nice way to kind of hide the transition from the height elevation. I have to figure that out. But honestly, like if I hunker down and worked really hard, I can finish this corner of the park and call it a day and work on the other parts, right? Because you can see from how far I am, the more the park gets full, the more it gets harder to fill in those spaces. And this is where I either... See, that's the funny part about this project is that when you start out in the beginning, I'm making Main Street. I don't know how far I'm going to go, how long the street should be. I'm like guessing maybe the middle of the map. And then as I continue to grow, I'm like, so this is where we're going to find out if I made the calculation errors. And this is where I either bite the bullet and accept it, or I give up on the project. I don't want to give up on the project. I really don't. I really don't want to do that. But it could make me feel like, oh man, I did this wrong and it didn't work out. But I'm going to push through and just hopefully finish the park in a nice way and make it look really, hopefully presentable, right? That's kind of the objective here. And again, having that notion that this is a tiny toy Disneyland, I'm not really aiming for that realism. So I'm quite happy that I have that clause. So yeah, that's it so far. My thought so far, what I want to work on next. But yeah, I think I really want to work on New Orleans Station. Yeah, once I get that down and cemented, I don't have to worry about this back here. I can make these trees and a service road. I mean, I can do that. And then start work on New Orleans and the Pirates entrance. Yeah, because you can see the roads that I kind of painted out. This is kind of what New Orleans is supposed to look like. So what I need to do first is a block out. So I need to build some shapes and stuff to kind of give me the feel of what New Orleans is supposed to look like, and then build the buildings independently. Yeah, that is the strat. I'm probably going to make New Orleans smaller than it actually is, but I think that would be the best move. And then once that's done, I can go on to the next things. I need to fix this center here. I might just put trees here. Yeah, I'm going to put trees here, and maybe a small shed. But trees, kind of to help hide Splash Mountain a little bit, but not really. And then I could decide on finishing the rest of the track here for the river. But if I put in... Yeah, if I put in the trail again, then I have to move the river back a little bit. Yeah, that's the hard part about working on any project, is deciding on the next thing. And so I try to weigh my pros and cons when I make a decision, but that's just me. So, okay, enough rambling. I'm going to finish this video here, and thank you guys for watching. So here's the riverboat. Oh, I should just show you at night how pretty it is. There's the riverboat in her glory. She looks wonderful. And then we have the Riverbell Terrace over here. Looks quite wonderful as well. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next Tiny Disneyland. Hopefully I get to work on a train station, or I work on Pirates of the Caribbean, but we will see. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye!